All right, welcome back to the Hotel Hartness, the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and one of our newest members, Dexter Coakley, App State, the Dallas Cowboys, the St. Louis Cardinals. But Dexter, let's start. It's 1992. You're a Wando Warrior. You're a beach guy. How do you go from the beach to one of the highest points on the East Coast in App State to play your football in the Southern Conference at the time?
It's funny you asked that question. True story. I was actually going to be a Bulldog. I thought I was going to the Citadel. The Citadel actually wrote a letter of recommendation for me to go to Fork Union Military Academy. So when I left Wando, I went to Fork Union Military Academy, and I think the Citadel kind of forgot I was there. Didn't recruit as hard as they thought they needed to because I was a hometown kid. They thought they had me, and my dad had an accident. He's a bricklayer, passed away a couple years ago. He had an accident on the job, and I wanted to get closer to home, and Jerry Moore and, Appalachian coaching staff, they pressed me pretty hard, so I thought the closest I can get was to go to Appalachian, and Citadel lost out, so I got to play them every year in the Southern Conference.
And it couldn't have worked out any better. I'm a huge fan of Southern Conference. I do the Southern Conference tournament every year. I think there's still some purity at that level in college athletics, but let's stop and think about this. A Southern Conference Freshman of the Year in 1993, three-time first-team All-SoCon, three-time SoCon Defensive Player of the Year, two-time Southern Conference Male Athlete of the Year. What allowed for that type of success? Because it wouldn't happen in today's day and age.
We had really good teams. I had really good teammates. A guy you have here in South Carolina, coaching at South Carolina now with Beamer is Sean Elliott. Sean Elliott was my three technique. He started as a linebacker, and when I got there, he said, you know what, I'm probably going to move position, so I'll just keep blockers off him and allow him to go run and make plays. We had a great group of guys, coaching staff, put together a really good team. Jerry Moore did, and we believed in each other. We loved it. It wasn't NIL, it wasn't transfer portal. It was, figure it out, and we figured it out up there on the rock at Appalachian, and we had some successful teams.
Not only that, you go on and carve out 10 years in the NFL, 8 with the Cowboys, 2 with the St. Louis Cardinals. And please don't take this the wrong way, I think of you when I was doing my study, and like a good friend of mine, Jeff Bostic, who is a member of the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, always the attention to detail, because everybody questioned, was he big enough to play in the NFL? And Jeff told me one time, if I got my hands on you before you got yours on me, I was going to win that battle. So is that what helped you carve out a decade in the NFL, just, taking it to the field every play? I'm the man.
That's pretty much what it was. My game was built on speed. I felt if I can get to you before you got to me, I had a chance. I wasn't going to let an offensive lineman get to me running lateral. His only chance was to run directly at me, and I was pretty tough on my days. So he coming at me, he better come with a whole lot. So, but I had great guys in front of me. I'm talking about, Chad Hennings, Leon Lett, the Dallas Cowboys, defensive line. Those guys, they knew if Coke was behind me, I could just flash for 3 seconds, and then I can go try to get a sack because I know he's gone. And when I went to the Rams, that was the same, approach. They knew my game was speed, and, the only way to negate the speed is to go right at it. And, they didn't have a good opportunity doing that as well, because, I had a lot of good teammates that when they would try that and try to isolate me or try to, target me, those guys were just, feasting because they were able to make plays.
All right, final question. You're coaching at the high school level in the state of Texas. You just told me your son transferred back to UT San Antonio from App State, where you played. How many times did one of these kids come up to you and go, by the way, I Googled you last night? You actually know what you're talking about.
Every day, okay. every day I get Googled by my kids that I'm coaching. I think they don't believe it, so they got to go to the internet, their friend, and they look it up and look at my stats, because, when they see me, they just see a coach. They see someone who's pouring into them, and they can't believe it, that I'm paying it back forward. And, that's what it's about, because the game has given me so much, and, the people, that I've met throughout the game, and all the people that's poured into me to put me in this position that I am today, I'm just paying it back forward by, giving it back to the youth.
Well, tonight's about you. Enjoy this. I love the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. I feel like everybody gets to be who they are. They don't have to be up on a pedestal or anything of that nature. Congratulations. I hope you just take a deep breath and stop and enjoy it. Thank you, Dexter Coakley.